Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, boards, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Thursday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting the Deep, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. If you are playing characters Gottwald, Max Savra, or Toril, this stream is not meant for you and will be full of spoilers. The rest of you, of course, are always welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20, and for streaming, I use OBS Studio. My folks just picked up my kids, so I'm home alone, which is very odd for me. In fact, while we were loading them to the car, somebody drove by the street of my house with the window down, listening to music, and I was standing by my front door, like waving bye to my folks as they were, and the kids were climbing in the car, and this dude, he's got kind of his hand out of the window, just really listening to the music, and then all of a sudden he does this, like, there he is, like, points to me and, like, acknowledges me. We, like, make eye contact. I had no idea who this person was. I've never seen this person in my life. So I don't know if they were just high on life and just feeling it right now or what, but it was very awkward. Just randomly acknowledge somebody who's, like, standing out. There he is. I was like, I don't know. Hi. And just drove by. It was super weird. Anyway, I have finally put some maps into Roll20. I know we've been doing a lot of talking about post Styes and the third act of what I think will be a 4-act campaign of Call from the Deep, where we're going to get into the Chapter 4 area, as well as throwing in some of the Chapter 3 kind of open world dungeon locations. So this is the Tentrix's floating lair, which the original map is. The idea is it's a bunch of ships lashed together, which makes the cool pirate fortress. And there are maps. Most of the maps I'm finding are in the Call from the Deep. It's actually the Ghost of Saltmarsh Discord channel, but there's a Call from the Deep section in it. And there are folks that have made a lot of maps for this. However, there is a map by Seafoot Games, which is a cartographer that I subscribe to on Patreon, seafootgames.com, as well as patreon.com/seafootgames, SEAFOOT, who made a literal pirate floating fortress map, which looks absolutely gorgeous. So I may just reflavor the dungeon into this, especially if I'm already going to pull, and I'm zoomed out a little bit, that's why it's kind of lower texture, or lower resolution, because I'm already going to pull out all the pirate captains out of the base, so I don't need all those kind of big empty rooms sitting there, and I can make it more of a kind of a lived-in location versus just a bunch of bedrooms pointing each other. As kind of like that was like a floating hotel. This feels more like an actual livable base, I guess. And I really want to pull off the thing that Morgan was suggesting, which is let the players infiltrate this place and think assuming they want to play along with that, they may just want to go hard, which is fine. But if they can come in here and think they can infiltrate and just sneak their way in and act like pirates, and then, of course, have Tentrix be on them the whole time, and then do the very classic, awesome cinematic reveal where the good guys think they've infiltrated the bad guy base, but then the bad guys just all, like, do the slow clap, and it's just a big reveal that the bad guys have been aware of them the whole time, and it comes down to a big, brutal battle that we can kind of have throughout this whole location. So I'm really looking forward to that. This is only the first layer of the map, by the way. This is a 3-part multi-level map, and you can see how all the different areas are literal ships put together, and like there's just stacked on top of each other. It's really, really cool. But as I was looking at this, I started thinking of how it's supposed to work in regards to the player's ship. And I think what's supposed to happen is the players end up at Driftwood Docks, and I think they're supposed to dock their boat in Driftwood Docks, and because I kept going like, okay, are they supposed to drive their ship through here? Like, how does this work? But I think the way the description makes it sound is there's this chain of very small islands or even just crashed rubble that surrounds this in kind of a circle formation. So this is just kind of one of the entrances. Maybe it's like the only entrance. But people are supposed to leave their boats out here, and then maybe they take like a dinghy or something, because this is a floating fortress in the middle of this very small bay. So I don't think you're supposed to take your full-ass boat, and it makes sense because there's not really enough space for a giant-ass boat here. So I think you're supposed to dock your boat in Driftwood Docks, so maybe it becomes more of a land battle, or they can try and talk their way in here. And the only awkward thing about this, which I mentioned on Monday, is that I would prefer the players do have a fight here in Driftwood Docks, but then still feel like they can infiltrate the inner bay area. I would love to be able to pull that off, even though I know if they're thinking heist, they're going to try to heist both locations if they can. So we'll see how it works, but I'm going to treat these as two separate locations and definitely give the party a chance to kind of regain the element of stealth and surprise once they get to the floating fortress. And maybe that's a good excuse for why it turns out like the bad guys are aware of them if this does end up being a fight here at Driftwood Docks. I did find, as I mentioned, a couple maps. Unfortunately, a lot of the folks who made the maps, I don't think made them with a virtual tabletop in mind, because the maps do not line up to the grid, which is driving me absolutely insane. This one is fine, I think. It really, you don't need it to line up to a grid. There's nothing that's like dungeon rooms or something. It's just the big, Driftwood Docks area. It's not big enough for a ship to go through. I'm not even sure where exactly ships are supposed to dock, though. It's called Driftwood Docks, but there's no like docks. It's just kind of a bunch of land, like little islands with bridges. I don't know how that works in terms of where you're supposed to leave your ship. And it doesn't really mention it in the text, I think. There's a bunch of people here. There's a frost giant who kind of runs the thing, which is very cool. There's a skill checks players have to make to even get their ship here. The entrance is a few hundred feet wide and consists of a handful of gullies between cliffs. Tentrix has fortified the entrance with ballista and drums, which serve as an alarm. So I'll have to be careful about if I want the players to be able to send up an entire alarm, or maybe they'll just, again, try to heist their way inside. A bunch of creatures, bandits, thugs, ogres, minotaurs, ballistae, bridges, large island collected by rickety bridges. Characters move at a normal pace, so they're designed to be on foot here. And then the land is all just cliffs everywhere, and drums have alarms. The ruined tower is where the frost giant is. So the only thing I was confused about is like, where are people supposed to dock their ship here? Not really a clear space for that. But it does seem like they're meant to only take like a small dinghy or something, a rowboat equivalent, once they actually get to the docks. Characters notice the entrance for docks, so they make their presence over the layer. The crew rushes to battle stations, which they have a bunch of battle station stuff, which could be fun. If they go hard, there's rules for that. So I'll basically have to have both in mind. I'll have to have rules in mind for if they want to just go hard and fight everybody, which would be pretty difficult for the party, or they want to try to heist their way inside. But I'll have to redesign this dungeon, so that'll be a big job for me for a couple crafting sessions, I'm sure, to really make it work, and probably make it a little bit easier for me, because again, the original is going to have a lot of the rooms are belonging to all the pirate captains, and my goal is to take all those pirate captains and put them in other locations, which we can also talk about that, because I think I've narrowed down all the locations that I want to use. I wonder if I should scale that. I don't think I have to scale it up, because I think we'll be at the appropriate level. I think they're supposed to be level 8 or 9, and they will be, let's see, they're 8 now at the Styes, so they'll be 9 going to this place. Hopefully, I haven't created too much content for one level, because Driftwood Docks and the Tentrix Pirate Lair is, also a full area. And then I'm also introducing a couple new areas before that, and all of that is basically going to be level 9 for the party. And then once they finish up at Tentrix and defeat Tentrix, I think then they'll be level 10. But I don't think it's too much. So my goal is to add 2 locations, which is Narino, the underwater merfolk city, I guess, although it's really, the location is just kind of one of the castles, which is actually a vampire lair. And the second one is that Iron Hand Cairn. This is where I ran into problems, and I'm probably going to have to, unfortunately, build these maps myself, because this is the original, which is a cool little dungeon, very small, like 5-room, dungeon. And one of the pirate captains, actually canonically the Stormbaden, which I may end up just still using her, is trying to go after a treasure here. And there's a few cool treasures for the party to grab and some undead for them to fight. The only map I found, I think I might have found 2 maps. I think they're both on that Call from the Deep Discord. Unfortunately, does not line up to grids. I've tried a million different ways, and I just don't think whoever made the map made it the right size. And if you look at the dimensions of this dungeon versus the dimensions of the original, it doesn't fit at all. Like this hallway is supposed to be the same length on both sides. It is not. The top and bottom runes are supposed to be the same width. They are not. So I may have to just make it myself using like assets in Roll20. Thankfully, Gabriel Picard has some good stuff to use. What was I looking at earlier? So like you can use any of this is called like save versus cave crypts. And this you can literally just use tiles, right? You can like put together your own tiles and make your own room. It's honestly not something I enjoy doing very much. I am not an artist. I'd rather spend my time working on story stuff versus putting together the maps and whatnot. But I'm thinking I may have to do that here if I can find one of these like pre-made ones. But unfortunately, because I really do like the layout design that Perry designed, that the Call from the Deep designer created. I like this layout. I think I'm just gonna have to create my own based on those little dungeon maps and try to make it work with the tricky thing is the water cutting through everything is gonna make it a little bit more difficult. You can turn off the grids, little TS measurements for spells, otherwise it's fine. We've never done that before, Demnix. That's a whole nother I don't know. I feel nervous about turning off the grid. We live and die by the grid. I do appreciate this doesn't have or actually that makes it kind of makes it harder in a way too. So, you know, you can get maps that are pre-gridded and put them onto Roll20, and then it really drives you crazy if it doesn't line up, right? Because it immediately doesn't look right if the grids don't fit the grids. This doesn't have that problem. This is non-gridded, so when you put it into Roll20 and overlay Roll20's grid on it, you don't have that issue. The issue I have is that it's just not, the dimensions aren't correct to where any way that I resize this map doesn't quite work. But I do want to use this dungeon, so I'm thinking I may just kind of create it myself. And the idea is to put one of the pirate captain lords here, which is from Call from the Deep, and have them be hunting the same treasure. The other location is Nerino, which we're going to put Dirge here. Dirge was also sent to go to this underwater dungeon location and to loot treasure here, but did not realize that it was now the lair of an underwater vampire who killed him and his crew, and is, I'm going to try to balance it where there's going to be some hostilities, but also it's actually going to be a big social scene for the party. If they want to fight the vampire because it's a vampire and get her treasure, then they certainly can. But this party has been very much willing to make a deal with just about every creature out there and make alliances and stuff. So it would not surprise me if they were down for that, especially because I'm probably going to introduce her as having killed the other invading pirates. But I'll try to throw a few, you know, things at the party. This is another map where I may actually redesign it. Gosh, what was I finding before? I was also looking at Seafoot Games to see if they had any other maps that would be usable here, which I don't know if there is. I know I found one I may use for Act 4. What was the one I found? Could work for Nerino. Maybe it wasn't this one. I did find a map I could use for the top side of Ironhead Cairn, which is awesome. Yeah, I actually don't have one for, I guess I need to look up. This is specifically an underwater castle, I guess, if I can find a map that does underwater castle, which I'm sure I can find it somewhere. This map right here isn't bad. This is also from, I think, the Call from the Deep Discord, or the Ghost of Saltmarsh Discord, the Call from the Deep section, whatever. It doesn't line up perfectly. These rooms are supposed to be exactly like 2 by 3, I think. This hallway doesn't quite, you know, you can see like the way the grids just don't quite line up in those areas, and obviously the map art is pretty basic, and I don't want to, these are, you know, thankfully people are putting these maps together. I think they're built in Incarnate or something, certainly better than I could ever do. But I do have the privilege of being able to use all the Roll20 assets to create maps, so I may do that for this one as well. I don't think did I resize this one? I may have resized this one. So yeah, this one's not quite fitting exactly either. And the reason I would even think about making these maps myself is because they're relatively small, right? These are like 5, 6, 7 room dungeons. These aren't, I wouldn't try to make like Wave Echo Cave or anything that was more complicated in a large dungeon. I guess I have done that. Well, no, I to do that, I start with a baseline model, right? Like with Pirate Skyhold, I started with a map. With when I did Rime with the Frost Maiden, I did the actually I did two custom maps, I guess. I did the whole bee brewery thing, apiary, and then I made the excavation site. Both of those I found base maps I could throw on here, and then I'd edit those with other assets and things on top of it. Very rarely do I literally have to start from scratch and like build a map out. That may be the case for these two, but if I can find something that's kind of a close idea, then I'll probably go with that. But Narino will be one location, and then Ironhead Cairn will be the other. Both of those will be somewhere in the southern half to where the party, you know, it won't be a question of like, oh, that one's way the fuck up there. We're not going to do that. So around. I know that she was talking about the Slod, which is Captain Scummer. And Slods have the ability to... What am I trying to look for? Where's... Oh, that's right. I'm scrolling up. Jeez. Slods have the ability to shape change. And I kept on thinking, well, what is going to be my fourth? If I want to use all four captains, which is Storm Maiden, Profanus, Dirge, and Scummer, and I've got one location is Ironhead Cairn, one location is Narino, one location is just going to be on the sea hunting the party as our big scripted naval battle with two just powerful ships and a purely hostile pirate crew. That'll be like their one kind of overworld encounter. And then what's my fourth location? Well, the fourth location could be the actual tavern where the party gets the quest from Callus. And I talked about before thinking about this, but then thinking like, well, I don't want to give the party the MacGuffin thing they need from the pirate captains. But who cares? Like, I think it's just a cool idea. And I'll even tease the fact that, you know, the pirate captains are out there hunting you. Mintarn is supposed to be a neutral location, but of course the Black Armada has infiltrated it. They've hidden their ship, and it turns out Scummer, who can use its action of polymorphing into a small or medium humanoid, can literally just like, you know, towards the end of the scene, the social scene where they're getting all this information from Callus. And no, I don't know why Scummer would wait that long for them to get all the information, but maybe they're like getting their people into position in something. It's just narratively satisfying for them to get the information they need and then launch the attack. And then Scummer can reveal, maybe even attack Callus, like take Callus out, and then it becomes this big, awesome, classic pirate tavern brawl that we really need for this campaign, which I think we will do also probably in Tentrix's floating fortress, but that'll be a good excuse to use the slot, have an awesome like surprise round moment, and then that checks off using one of those locations. And I think I can reuse our tavern map that we used earlier, because who cares, which was in the Neverwinter section. No, or was it? Was it? I thought I used... No, it wasn't. It was in the Pirate Skyhold. There it is. That's right. It was part of that quest chain. There we go. So I don't see why we can't just use this same tavern right here. Maybe I'll flip it or something. Although if I flip it, I have to flip all the dynamic lighting, which is a pain in the butt. This is where they fought Ned, as you remember. Shout out to Demnix for making the Mega Ned. But I think this would be a perfectly fine tavern to reuse. Maybe the same company built a tavern down here. And we can just have an awesome... This is a good-sized tavern map. I think it's another Gabriel Picard tavern. I may have blown it up a little bit. I don't remember. And we can just have an awesome tavern brawl with Scummer. I still have to figure out... Really, for each crew, I need to figure out how big is their crew, how many people would they take, and what's the appropriate scaling for the party to deal with. And I can go pretty hard because I imagine each of these areas would probably be their own long rest. So really, it's almost their own adventuring day with each of these locations, because their ship is considered a safe. Well, Have I been doing that though? When they travel, they don't have it. No, that's not right. Because when they travel, they don't automatically get a long rest. I may have to modify my travel rules. I don't know. Or treat it all as one. That's a good question. Do I want to have each of these be their own adventuring day, or tie them all together with... Probably the best pacing would be if they did all of the pirate captains on one long rest, and then they were able to long rest, and then do Driftwood Docks and Tentrix as floating layer. That's probably the best way to pace it. So basically, one long rest in the middle of that big act, that big quest chain. I don't know what a good excuse would be for them to be able to find a safe long rest location other than for me to just tell them, okay, now you can long rest here. They will get a chance to long rest, obviously, after the Styes, after all that battle, and then level up. But I would like to maybe not have them long rest between all these other locations. So, yeah, I take it back. They won't be long resting between all these. But I think we could still go pretty hard. I mean, the crew alone is supposed to be pretty big. I don't know if all of them probably don't need to be here to fight the party. And the one thing I think that Call from the Deep lacks, one thing, I mean, I'm sure there's several things, is that I don't believe it mentions how big of a crew all of these people have. One of them, let's see, one of them probably does. It's Iron Hand Cairn. Actually, if the pirates show up in other locations, it should mention them. Let's see, Storm Maiden. What does she have with her? 5 spies. That's not very impressive. That is supposed to be for a lower level, I'm sure. Spies aren't bad, but that's like, she needs some more. Yeah, that's not great. Of course, what is her stat block? CR 8? Yeah, she's a good boss level. Javelin of Lightning and an arrow catching shield. Where would it tell me about their piratey crews? I guess if I click on... Actually, let's go back to Scummer. Your Bion info. It tells you where you appear. Skog. Okay, so what does that mean? Cleft, a Minotaur. Skog's no ruler. Driftwood. It's just an encounter, a pirate wedding. That would be amazing, but I don't know if I think Tentrix is supposed to actually be there at the wedding. That's amazing. So this is obviously doesn't have his crew here. Credit includes Sea King Tentrix, Captain Scummer, Cleft the Minotaur, owner of the Keel Hall, Captain Cal's, and either pirate captains become notorious in your game. Well, fuck, a pirate wedding would be fun too. We could do that at Mintarn. Although instead of just the tavern. The bad thing is that makes me have to do another map though. It could be hilariously complicated. Also, the party wouldn't know any of these characters, so it wouldn't have much meaning for them, I suppose. So we might just go with the tavern. But that's a cute idea to do a fucking pirate wedding. Caravel is a crew of 8 lizard folk, 2 ogres, and 5 human thugs. That's better for minions. I mean, obviously things like gladiators, berserkers, all those kind of stat blocks. Minotaurs would work well. Ogres would work well. Thugs are actually a pretty good standard stat block. Nothing crazy, right? Like, the Black Armada is still not... Well, I think... I'm trying to think now. Tentrix, I guess, is a Kraken priest, so I guess he does have obvious ties to the Kraken Society, but, like... I don't know if he keeps them on the down low or what, but it seems like the Black Armada... Obviously, now they're allied with the Kraken Society, but before they were just kind of doing pirate stuff. So... In other words, they don't have, like, the Deep Scions and the Chuls. Like, all the monsters we've been seeing in the Styes, that's not what's going to be here. These are all going to be just pirates, but still, you can... I feel like just the concept of pirate, you can actually use a lot of different stat blocks for that. Anything from rogue-type stat blocks to warriors to, like, berserkers, barbarians, and even a few spellcasters, which is going to be their big... weakness is not having a whole lot of spellcasters, but like that's where these special captains come into play. Scummer, as a Slod with a freaking awesome pirate hat, just hurls, basically has Firebolt as an attack, as well as a once per day fireball. It can do fear. That's all pretty good stuff. We like the idea of the pirate wedding. So yeah, I like the idea of including Captain Scummer and Scummer's crew as a surprise during that social scene of them going to Mintarn and getting the quest. And that should really be able to wrap up a full session then, I think, which would be, hopefully we can wrap up everything tomorrow on the Styes. And then for the following session, we can then have the party go to Mintarn. I'll just heavily suggest that, like, hey, by the way, this was supposed to be a safe place and for you to meet Callus and get some information. They can go there, meet with Callus. Hopefully, he's going to demand they pay him what they owe him for helping out at the Neverwinter fight, and then he'll expect some more payment for information. But then we can have, and we'll have him give all the information to the party in terms of, hey, there's other, Tentrix's top pirate captains are out searching for, treasure. Again, very similar to like, Nazis during World War II. It was like still like a war or battle going on, but like they're also like special forces going to search for all these supernatural treasures and things. So the party should be motivated just to go stop that. I mean, certainly Gottwald alone would want to go stop them, but I can also mention the fact that, they've got these special devices that allow them to locate the Tentrix's lair within the Nelanther Isles. So the only weird thing is if I do throw Scummer at them, then presumably they would be able to grab that item, and then that kind of renders everything moot. But if they wanted to skip the others, they technically could. It would be a bummer if I spent a lot of work putting these maps and things together and they decide not to go after them. But I think I know my party and my players, and I think they'll want to take out the other pirate Captain Lord. So I think we can still get it done. But this should be a fun location. Certainly a great spot to launch a fireball, in the middle of the group, a fear. And I don't know if these guys would fight to the death or not, or if they would talk. It's actually a good question, and I don't think Scummer can actually escape very well either. It does have invisibility, actually, so I could have Scummer. That would actually be pretty fun. Although I'm sure the party has ways that I'm not aware of that they can see invisibility. I don't know if they have Fairy Fire. This might be the only party that doesn't have Fairy Fire available. That's always a really good anti-invisibility spell. Good spell in general. But technically could escape using invisibility if it wanted to. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't know what enemies to put Captain Scummer with. Let's look at some other ideas. So if we go back to, let's see, Tentrix and Pirate Lords. We looked at Scummer. Tentrix doesn't count. Okay, what about Dirge? Where does Dirge normally show up? So Scummer showed up at the Pirate Wedding. Okay, Dirge is only at the floating layer, so that part doesn't really help me at all. I guess we could look and see if they've got some crew at the floating layer I could borrow. We already know where the Storm Maiden is. We already know where Bluebeard is. That just leaves us with... Where is the Naga? Desecratus Profanus. So where do you show up? Toolmain. Okay. Just an encounter. Characters sing in Toolmain. Desecratus Profanus, a spirit Naga, pirate lord loyal to Sea King Tentrix, arrives on a damaged caravel with a crew of 15 assorted lizard folk, orcs, and humanoid thugs. Okay, that helps. That helps a lot. Assorted lizard folk, orcs, and humanoid thugs. We haven't fought any orcs yet. We have we fought lizard folk? Or actually, lizard folk have been allies mostly. We did fight lizard folk. We did fight some, I think a few earlier. But yeah, I like the idea of basically it just makes it more interesting rather than fighting like one generic pirate stat block, which I'm sure they're out there, or you can use the bandit or whatever, and instead use like at least a couple different ones. And I like the idea here: lizard folk, orcs, humanoid thugs. None of those are particularly strong, but if we use a lot of them, which it does say 15, that'd be pretty good. Do we have any votes on which pirate captain lords they should find where? So I guess this only comes down to two because Dirge, as the only one who can breathe underwater, makes sense why he would be sent to the underwater merfolk city and be killed by the vampire lord. So we'll put Dirge in Narino. And then with Scummer having shape changer, it makes sense to put Scummer in the Mintarn Tavern. So that only leaves us with two different options we could swap if we wanted to, which is the Storm Maiden at Iron Hand Cairn. And then that leaves us with the Naga, the Spirit Naga, for chasing the party down. Which is probably the best thing, because I think the Storm Maiden would be more fun to fight in close quarters. And the Spirit Naga, I think, has a lot of spells. And therefore, we can use her as captain of the ship that just goes after the party. Yeah, she's got Dimension Door, Blight, Lightning Bolts, even a Dominate Person. These are all very good. And fires Ray of Frost. It only has a 60-foot range. But I'm picturing literally like one of those ship-to-ship battles that we almost had with Captain Callus, but the party talked their way out of that one. And then since then, I think we've only had one other actual ship-to-ship battle, and that was with kind of a random pirate captain crew on their way into the Neverwinter, basically when they were breaking the blockade to get into Neverwinter, and that's where Matt got his Scimitar of Speed, is from that captain. So that was the only other time we've had it. So this will be a time where it'll be just a scaled up version of that, where a much stronger pirate captain lord who is not interested in, surrendering or talking or anything. She has kind of a low amount of hit points. We might need to give her max hit points. 75 hit points for a boss, I don't think is going to cut it, even though she's a Spirit Naga. But the fact that she's going to be captain of a ship, be far away from the party when they're attacking, be able to hunt down or lay down a bunch of pretty good spells, should be effective on that. So that'll be an easy map to throw together because we can just use our same ship encounter map that we've been using. I think I literally used the same one with Callus and then the other pirate captain. So it turns out every enemy ship looks pretty similar. Oh well. It should be pretty fancy though, and should have a lot of armaments on there. I mean, this should be like a giant warship, even though it says right here a caravel, but we can certainly scale it up, which means you would also have probably a lot more crew, although you could also argue that not every crew is designed to fight. There's going to be a lot of crew that are just on the ship, that are just keep the ship running. And that'll be a case where hopefully, I don't know, maybe the crew, all the captain lords, I don't know if any of them would actually fight to the death versus be able to just kind of limp away. I know the party would want to take them out completely if they can. But I'm still loving this idea of being able to use them all in this sequence. But if any of them survive and the party don't chase them, then we can conveniently have them return to, including Scummer's invisibility, to the floating layer. Probably the only one that's not really going to be able to escape is going to be the Storm Maiden at Iron Hand Cairn, because they'll just be a basic land battle with a bunch of dudes, and I just don't see her being able to escape from that situation. Profanus being on a ship might have a chance. She does have Dimension Door, but I don't know if using that in the middle of the ocean is going to be a great idea. Yeah, 500 feet. That's not really going to help you if you're in the ocean. She can use that to teleport onto the ship, but that seems like a bad move for a spellcaster. Use it to escape, but again, you're on a ship in the ocean, so I don't know if you'll be able to escape very well. But that's a case where if they manage to disable each other's ships or something, one of them might be able to escape. The best one to be able to escape is probably Scummer, just because that invisibility. Captain Scummer. Is there actual pirate stat blocks? Spell Sniper, and she can be the magic-y pirate version of Mac. Yeah. Just like double all the range attacks. Ghost of Saltmarsh does have a couple bespoke pirates, but I think they're all pretty low level. These were all from Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. In fact, I think they have a pirate deck wizard on their side, which other interesting thing about that ship-to-ship battle with probably Profanus is that the party would also have all their extra, they'd have Borges, they'd have the Tritons, they'd have all their special NPC allies that maybe I can have the party themselves run. and really turn into a big, crazy battle with multiple units on the board. But in doing so, it also, anybody's up for grabs for attacking and death. Although I could argue some of them could roll death saves, because I thought that actually worked pretty well with Borges. Makes it maybe more cinematic and forces the party to even use some actions if they want to save that person. Yeah, Deck Wizard's actually not bad to just grab for me to use, actually, now I'm looking at it. It's a CR1. A lot of the minions I'm looking at are pretty low minion ranking. What I'd probably do is create a captain, or not create, the captain's already there, and they're all about, looks like about CR8, which is fine. Have a bunch of minions that are closer to like CR1, but then maybe create like one first mate who's kind of a mid-range stat block. So maybe like a CR3 or something. If I can find a decent kind of thematic first mate for each person, just so there's another person who's like kind of a mini boss with the boss. And see, even the first mate stat block from Ghost of Saltmarsh is only a CR1. That's not really, that's actually more minion based, if anything. In fact, that's not a bad minion at all for pirates. Pirate first mate, average hit points 26, 16 AC, basically a thug, but with multi-attack and better AC. I don't remember if thugs actually have multi-attack or not. Although disarming is certainly not a good move for the... Disarming's not good unless there was something you could like disarm and then knock their weapon away, but that's not really a thing. So I'll have to remember about that. The pirate first mate. There's a pirate captain stat block, which I could use as a first mate. That's a CR2. 45 hit points, 14 AC. Double attack with crossbow and longsword. Seems fun, but unless they have built-in crossbow expert, I think they always have like disadvantage on the crossbow. So I mean, they're able to swing with the sword. But you could just argue that too. Can you help perilous threats to another creature to reroll the attack roll? That's pretty fun. So I could use that as one of the mini bosses. So that would actually be the first mate, would be the pirate captain. I'm having to kind of scale up a little bit because all these pirate captains or pirate stat blocks are for tier 1 parties, and my party will be nearing the end of tier 2. Yeah, there's a ton of those humanoid NPC stat blocks. The problem is just remembering which ones are going to be valid. So like, Scout, Spy, I think are all too low for what I'm thinking. They'd be more like minion based. But certainly could use them. Spies. In fact, Stormmaiden uses Spies as her main minion, it sounds like. Pirate Bosun is also a low level minion. 27 hit points, AC of 12. Only has one attack, but does have a grappling hook hand, I guess. What else is there? Vampirates from Spelljammer. And then everything else is just from Call of Duty. Man, Pirates is really lacking in stat. I guess just calling somebody a pirate is pretty damn lacking in 5e. I'd have to borrow from... Yeah, I'd have to look up like whatever, just humanoid spellcasters. I could use many. Or the fun thing is more monstrous people too, like Scummer and the Spirit Naga especially. I could use Yuan Ti. Actually, would be really flavorful for the Spirit Naga to use. It makes sense that she would use people from like Chult, for example. We haven't seen Yuan Ti in a hot second. Do Yuan Ti have decent like ranged attacks at all? I know purebloods are just like regular humans. Okay, they've got short bows. So we could use... Ooh, 40 hit points. Suggestion and poison spray, yeah. We could use Yuan Ti purebloods as minions for Desecratus, and then maybe... stronger Yuan Ti? They've got to have range attacks. That's what makes a Pirate Lord work for me. Or a pirate. Spectral Fangs. This is a CR5. That might be... Whew. That might be too strong, actually. This is the Pitmaster. There's always the Malison, which I think is one where you can choose like what kind of Malison they are, which is very confusing because they're literally as different stat blocks. Like one is like the head of a snake, or the arms of a snake, or the body of a snake. You like snakes? We got parts for you. No range attacks though. Nightmare Speaker is probably too high level. I think that's the like priests. CR4. Although I don't want to show up the Spirit Naga is already a spellcaster. And it's a straight up Eldritch Blast. And pacing wise, they would probably be the last one the party fights, I would imagine. Depending on where I put the locations. So Scummer will obviously be the first one because they'll be launching their attack at the party when they get the quests. And then I could put the other two locations, and it's up to the party which two they want to do. Either none of them, one of them, or both of them. And then most likely I would then trigger the Profanus ship battle as the last thing before they get to... Oh man, do I still want to do the zombie dragon turtle though? There's so much shit I'm throwing at them. And the sea tower. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff, but it's good. It's good stuff. If I do that, then maybe I don't want to do Profanus last, because then that would have me do two ship things back to back. But you could also argue that, like, hey, as you get closer to Ninthers, that's where you're going to start hitting all the really dangerous stuff. What are we talking about? Ghost of Saltmarsh, Lokatha, Hunter. Oh, that's like the Borgus. The Borgus stat block almost. Where is this from? The Hunter found in Danger at Dunwater. Okay. Yeah, CR2 with Envenomed Crossbow. 33 hit points. Makes 2 attacks. Ooh, and it can poison with its crossbow. That's pretty funny. Somebody just had a random, like, Borgus is like, it's my brother! Gorgeous! Or something. I don't know. Oh, man. That's actually a pretty solid stat block, though, to use as a pirate minion. I was searching for... Yeah, George's evil cousin. I think we had the right idea. Oh, the drama. The delicious drama. The Lokatha Hunter. So, what should I do first? Probably the tavern. Oh, actually, let's spend the last like 15 minutes here just talking about the Styes, because we are supposed to be talking about the Styes somewhat. Because this is my last chance to talk about the Styes, so we should do that. So let's go back to the temple. So I think we've narrowed it down that we are going to just launch the Kraken here in this final room. Following this big dungeon, I am going to warn the players, like, hey, we're going to try to hit the ground running. And get through this battle, and then try and also get through the Juvenile Kraken battle all in one session. We have to do like falling action the next time, but we're going to be off the following Friday on the 19th, so I want to finish the Styes tomorrow if at all possible. And the nice thing is we're kind of in the middle of this. We kind of just started it, but you know, we don't have to like do any cuts. Like we're here. Like we start immediately. We've already got initiative rolled. Like we're going. Once they get through all of this, I will let them short rest. Druskus will have some kind of fun thing to say during his death, which will be like, well, I've been keeping this creature shackled and bent to our will, but now with my death, it is free and free to destroy you and this city or something. And then players hear this like scream coming from the depths of the water. And then I just kind of tell them they have enough time for a short rest, I guess. In terms of the Kraken stat block, what do we got? It's an average of 207 hit points, AC of 16. Has absolutely monstrous saving throws. Strength plus 12, Dex plus 5, Con plus 10, Intelligence plus 9, and Wisdom plus 7. The only thing that's not great at is Charisma. So I'm sure... fucking Toro will try to banish it. I probably need to give it legendary resistance. I'm not even sure the OG Kraken has legendary resistance. I think, didn't we look that up before? And I was shocked about that. I think every boss creature kind of, unfortunately, has to have it because it's an arms race between the party. Yeah, the OG Kraken at CR23 does not have legendary resistance. It does not even have magic resistance. Fuck. It has really good saves. It's worse as a +5 to charisma. But that still feels pretty bad that it can get, this godlike creature can just be banished. Now, banishing a boss is weird if it's the only boss because it's not taking any damage and it doesn't last forever. What happens is the boss comes back, everybody can trigger readied actions, I guess. I'm not even sure how that works because you would take the party out of combat. So we did this with Mr. Dory technically, right? Mr. Dory was banished, and then we ended combat because they took everything else out, and then I had Mr. Dory come back, and I let all the party unleash a full action's worth of moves, I think. Or maybe they were raid actions. I honestly don't remember. Or it would effectively be a surprise round maybe on the target because the target would not know the timing, whereas the party, through Toro would be able to know the timing. So I think I ruled it that the party could just go a full surprise round of stuff on the target, which is devastating, as we all know. And in fact, I watched that D&D 2024 video, and they're like, yeah, surprise round is super fucking devastating in D&D. We realized that, and we're changing those rules because Crawford literally said we've done surprise fights and the party kicks so much ass. It's like, why are we even having this fight? And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty brutal. So it's a huge advantage to have the party be able to, even if they're banishing a boss and the boss is the only thing there, they can still get everything ready, do this huge surprise round, do however much fucking damage they can do, and then you're back in the actual combat. And then Toro could even banish again if you wanted to. Demnix, the reason I'm saying that is because I would specifically allow the party to short rest between these two battles. I think it would be way too devastating to try and fight two boss battles back to back without even a short rest in the middle. And canonically, in my game, we have 5-minute short rest versus 1 hour short rest. So I think I would just allow them to get that short rest. And more importantly, of course, short rest as a warlock, Twirl gets both his spell slots back, so would be able to banish again. The easiest thing I can do is to give the Juvenile Kraken legendary resistance. If I give it 2 shots of legendary resistance, then that would reveal, obviously I would try to make the save first, but charisma is its worst save. It doesn't even have magic resistance. That would reveal that it does have legendary resistance. And then Toro could even do that again, burn the second one, and then he's out of banishments, and then I can't resist anything else. So that way, at least the player can kind of feel good about it. And I realize legendary resistance is kind of a band-aid to the problem of just some spells are so fucking strong. It's why a lot of video games, their bosses have immunities, though. I mean, I've played a ton of games where, you can debuff enemies left and right, but bosses are immune to certain debuffs completely, or for whatever reason. They may have obvious weaknesses, but I don't think in D&D bosses need a whole lot of weaknesses. Instead, they just need a whole lot of strengths and resistances because parties just get exponentially more powerful than their foes do, and action economy is a big one. And action economy is going to be a big deal here because I've designed it where the Kraken is going to be alone. And if you notice, it does not have multi-attack. So this may end up being a disappointing boss fight now that I look at it. Maybe I shouldn't let the party short rest. A lot of it's going to depend on how the previous fight went, right? Are they half dead, drained of everything, and then I throw a Kraken at them? Or did they kick ass, and now I'm throwing a Kraken at them? I guess that makes a big deal. It only has 1 attack around. However, it does have legendary actions, but I've mentioned previously, I prefer personally to use layer actions and just convert these to layer actions, which it almost is because one of them costs 3 actions and the other one is 2. So I guess at best it'd be able to do a tentacle attack and a fling. I guess I could always argue that maybe one of its layer actions is to do a tentacle attack and a fling together. So I just do it at once, and another one would be Ink Cloud maybe. I don't know, or maybe I could separate them. Now it doesn't have to recharge its lightning strike when I'm looking at, so it could just lightning strike every single turn. Maybe that's its best move. Magically creates a bolt of lightning which can strike a target within 90 feet of it. Target must succeed on a DC 18 dex save or take 4d10 lightning damage on a failed save. DC 18 is pretty good for dex save. I don't think anybody's got evasion. It is slightly higher than its tentacles. Although it has a plus 12 to hit with a tentacle and a reach of 20 feet. However, the tentacles do restrain, which is a very big debuff. And the bite is the best thing it can do, and it does have to grapple somebody first to do that. I guess lightning strike is only if it's in out of range. So maybe doing the tentacle followed by the bite combo, but it can't do both together. So maybe I'll make... I believe I have to scale this creature up. It's already a CR 14, but I'm just seeing it's kind of lacking. It's not lacking in hit points. That's the one thing it's got good on. I don't feel like I need to give it too many more hit points. So bite, if the target is medium or smaller, grappled by the Kraken. So it first has to do the tentacles and grapple them, and they have to stay grappled. Then it can do its bite, which it does. It still has to attack, but I guess it has advantage at plus 12. And then it does the piercing damage, and then it swallows them, which also gives them the blinded and restrained conditions. Total cover against attacks. Take 66 acid damage at the start of each of the Kraken's turns. It can hold up to 2 creatures. The Kraken takes 35 damage or more in a single turn from a creature inside it. Oh, interesting. The creature has to be inside of it to do that much damage? DC 23. Did that ever mention that before in other things? I thought they only had to do 35 damage in general. Specifically inside of it. That actually makes a big difference. It's like, Mac can definitely do 35 damage on a single turn, but probably not if he's blinded, restrained, and inside of the Kraken. Tentacle is what? Grapples them with a DC of 20. And then Fling, one medium or smaller object held or creature grappled by the Kraken is thrown up to 40 feet in a random direction and knocked prone. If the thrown target strikes a solid surface, target takes 1d6 bludgeoning damage for every 10 feet it was thrown. This seems like a trap to do unless there were like a pit of spikes or something, like an acid pit somewhere. I don't see knocking people prone is not super effective. And certainly I would rather keep them restrained than throwing them and dealing a couple d6 of damage. Much rather keep them restrained. And it can restrain up to like what, 10 people? Yeah, 10 tentacles. So I don't think I'd ever want to actually fling anybody, right? That doesn't seem very effective for its turns. Most effective thing is just tentacle people. And then probably do that again as a legendary action. And then on its next turn, whoever it's got tentacled, it can do its bite attack to swallow them. And then I guess lightning is cool, but the only way I can see using it... Well, I could make lightning a legendary action, actually. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll change... Because, again, we'll treat them as layer actions. So, like, on Initiative 20, it can either do a tentacle attack, a lightning strike, or we can keep its ink cloud. Although they're not underwater when they fight it. Heavily obscured to creatures in the Kraken. Each creature in the Kraken that ends its turn, there must be a DC 18 con save, taking poison damage. Okay. Well, that's still useful because it heavily obscures. So... that would give, like, disadvantage and stuff. I don't... Does Sharpshooter break that? God, fucking Sharpshooter. You know, fun fact, by the way, tease, we've got a patron discussion tonight, DM Roundtable, and the topic is most powerful feats. I wonder if Sharpshooter will be on there. Where are you seeing multi-attack? Am I looking at the wrong stat block? Oh, you know, there is a... Well, that's Monster Manual Expanded. I think Juvenile Kraken is only from Ghost of Saltmarsh, is that right? There's a malformed Kraken in Tales from the Yawning Portal, and obviously there's a Kraken-ass Kraken in the Monster Manual. There is a young one introduced in Monster Manual Expanded as well. It does have multi-attack. Am I Stupid. Where is the multi-attack? Amphibious. Freedom of movement. Legendary actions. Actions. Bite, tentacle, fling, lightning strike. I could check the book. Is roll 20 wrong? Let's check the book. Take a look in a book. Juvenile Kraken. Yeah, and I may be making a big mistake fighting them in such close quarters, but again, this is right after a major boss battle they're going to be fighting, which I assume they're going to be struggling with. Maybe I'm wrong, but this fight is supposed to be very, very difficult. So that kind of colors my expectations on what to do with this fight. Yes. Matan, you are correct. The fucking Juvenile Kraken in the Ghosts of Saltmarsh book does have multi-attack, so I think Roll20 just fucking missed it. You probably can't see because of the lighting, but... Nope, it's there somewhere. Sorry, my ring light is just blows it out. I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't even think to look it up. Roll20 does make mistakes. It's just people that are plugging all this in. Yeah, it says the Kraken makes 2 tentacle attacks, each of which it can replace with a use of fling. That's much better. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll add that on there. You've saved my boss fight. Multi-attack. Let's say Juvenile Kraken. Makes 2 tentacle attacks, each of which it can replace with a use of fling. That's, you just say fling. Replace. Oh, can spell. There we go. Okay. That's way better. That is way better. I gotta sneeze. It's coming. Ah, I got it. that was a long lead up time. That also makes the lightning strike less attractive because that's not part of its multi-attack, but that means I will definitely make lightning strike. I'll replace this one. In fact, we probably won't even use the action, so we'll just copy it right here and just go boom. That'll be like a layer action. I think that'd be a fun layer action. Kraken magic creates a bolt of lightning. I'm trying to target the Kraken sea within 90 feet of it. Target must get a DC 18 dex saving throw, taking 4d10 lightning damage. Take credit for their shattered corpses. Ooh. Yeah, I honestly don't know, and unfortunately, because I want to do this all in one session, I sneezed so hard we lost it. I'm gonna have to do all of my balance decisions on the fly during the session. I really don't want to leave this Juvenile Kraken for a whole nother session. I really want to try to get through all of this, but that means I'm gonna have to determine, based on how the party did in the first boss fight, how hard I want to go with this Kraken during the second boss fight. I think I'm already giving them a big advantage by having the party fight it here. If they think about it and they want to go into the water, then I'll fucking let them. I think I've got a random water map here. Yeah, right here. So if they want to fight it in the water, they are happy to do that, but I'm also willing to just run at them here. But that does give them an advantage, or at least not the disadvantage of fighting in water, I should say. But I'm not worried about the Kraken like getting kited or anything too much. What is the speed on this thing? 20 feet on land, and it's got a 20-foot reach with the tentacles. There's a pit right here. So if it starts here, 5, 10, 15, 20, it could flop its way onto land and then reach up to there, about halfway into the room with its tentacles. So it does have limited mobility for some of the party. That's where the lightning strikes would come in handy, but it's only really doing that once per round. And the only bad thing is, a lot of times 3 of our party are long range. Matt can actually do pretty good damage if he closes into melee as well, but maybe I'll start the Kraken here at the steps by the time it rushes up. So I can see that being an issue for the or a disadvantage for the Kraken, an advantage for the party, is the fact that it is mostly melee based, and the party may be able to kite it a little bit. And I mean, action economy is always going to hit a boss pretty badly as well. Kind of need to. Oh, and then so legendary resistance. Yeah, I think we have to give it legendary resistance. I think that's the only thing we can do. We can give it 2 a day. Juvenile Kraken fails the saving throw, can choose to succeed instead. Yes, it's a stupidly broken ability for bosses, but I would argue they kind of need it because there are stupidly broken spells. And I'm not, players can debuff, which it sucks as a DM to get your boss like blinded or slowed or whatever, but the ones that can really fuck you up, like banishment, or I've never come across this, but like Wall of Force, I think is another problem. Ones that just completely shut a boss down can be very, very challenging to deal with. Thankfully, it's got really good saves against just about everything except for banishment, which it only has a +3 against. So I think that's where legendary resistance will come into play. But we'll let the party short rest. I think unless they absolutely demolish me during this boss fight, they just completely shock me and just take me down really easily, then I may just have the Kraken show up as like the true boss. But if they do a normal, pretty long, grueling boss fight, then I plan on letting them have a very quick short rest before launching this Kraken at them. I should probably also throw in at least 1 cool magic item, but we are for them to grab after they do all this. But we are out of time currently, so I think that is going to be the end of this Thursday edition of Crafting the Deep. As always, if you enjoy the content, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Xenocide, Eclectic Roleplayer, Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Camp Crystal, Counselor, Andrew, Del, the Reldron, Captain Woody 79, Stephanie, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amit, Lippy, Spud, Sharni, David, William, Warden, Cutest Fox, Harold, Sam, and Eudaimonia LLC, and Gold patrons RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Dead Lizard Lounge, Sam, Jerome, Nathan, Pascal, Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Carolyn, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for support. I will see you for D&D tomorrow, and for patrons, I will see you tonight for the DM Roundtable.